Hello, everybody. I am Renee Kylis, and hey, I have a question. Why does Sargon hates the internet blood sports? Because he turned that whole entire dialogue into an internet blood sports. I mean, it came out, a complete shit show. And the weird part is, like I thought, even as early as like last year, I thought that something like this could have been a civil dialogue. Here's what I mean. Last year, I sent Sargon an email saying, Richard Carrier defended you. Link. He might be one of the good ones. Maybe you could have a civil debate without somebody yelling and screaming at you at the audience the whole time. Because that's where Thomas Smith went wrong. He was just yelling and screaming at both Sargon and the audience the whole entire time. And he's more than willing to let feminists know when they're wrong. Have a beautiful day. Now, but this time it's kind of a lot like, as I predicted, Richard Carrier was there for a civil debate. Richard Carrier handled himself gracefully while Sargon just looked like a lunatic. Now, I am going to start with the notes that I have on Richard Carrier, mainly because Sargon hardly allowed the guy to get a word in edgewise. Like Richard, he had to just insert himself because Sargon kept interrupting him while he was talking. But then, like, Sargon engaged in a shit ton of projection. He's like, "Don't you interrupt me while I'm talking." While Sargon is actually the one who didn't allow, Richard Carrier to get a word in edgewise, and he was the one who kept interrupting Richard when he was talking. So Richard, he really had to try to find a way to just get in the conversation because, if Richard didn't, then who knows, like, Sargon would just be talking the whole entire time and we wouldn't have, be able to hear anything Richard had to say. So I'm going to just go over a few notes that I have. So Richard Carrier says, you're talking about a small segment of very loud amateur internet activists. And I do agree that, Sargon, he does pay attention to really small, teeny tiny social justice channels that I'm sure that very few people care about. For example, the SJW community admits that they are monsters, where he was complaining about, people who have they had like 1,000 subscribers at the time. Like, he was complaining about Christiosity. Christiosity had 1,000 subscribers at the time. Yes, do you really think that the average person cares about her and her viewpoints? Think about how many anti-feminists care about, Mitch or Charming Man who has 1,000 subscribers. Think about all of the anti-feminist channels that don't really get views because they are viewed as irrelevant. Yet, he treats, people in the feminist community who have like 1,000 subscribers as if they are really important. Ironically enough, because he made this video, SJW submitted their monsters, Christiosity actually gained subscribers and followers because of that. She was like stuck at Christiosity was stuck at 1,000, but look at her now. Now she's grown to like almost 5,000. So actually, the drama has been good for her in the sense of growth. Controversy inspires growth. That's the reason why Onision keeps himself involved with controversy, because controversy helps her channel grow. And I don't know what's good Sargon is doing by paying such a strong amounts of attention to a small segments of very loud amateur internet activists. I mean, even Roberts Greene actually advocated against punching down in his book called War. Yeah, in his book called War, he actually was against punching down, not because of moral reasons, but again, think about the Onision effect. That's what I like to call it, the Onision effect, where it's kind of a lot like, Christianity only was stuck at 1,000 subscribers, but it's kind of like the drama with Sargon gave her more followers, or it's kind of like how like Riley Dennis was stuck at like 1,000 subscribers and was just stuck there. But then so many people wanted to talk about Riley Dennis. Then Riley Dennis skyrocketed to like, what's it? 61K subscribers, and that is why Robert Greene spoke out against punching down, because when you punch down, what happens is the Onision effect, and people are interested in the channel. Also, all of your hate subscribers, all of the people who subscribe to you strictly because they hate you will start following the person, and then they would just grow and rise in popularity. This is the reason why there are feminist people who have feminist ideas who have more subscribers and followers than people who have anti-feminist ideas and viewpoints. I mean, think about it. Riley J. Dennis, a feminist and intersectional feminist, has 61K subscribers, but Mitch, an anti-feminist YouTuber, has 1,000 followers. That's because what happens is the Onision effect. Everybody, wants to, talk about the feminists in case that they would delete their channel. But when they don't delete their channel, this is just a great, a great time for the Onision effect to take place and for them to get all of your hate subscribers. And then, because of all of the participation of their channel, YouTube only recognizes that people are participating, so it gives them the opportunity to grow even more. So ironically, the skeptic community actually inadvertently advertise the ideas that they are against. Instead of advertising ideas that they are in favor of, they actually advertise the ideas that they are against. How lovely. Now, Richard Carrier also wanted to bring up good social justice groups such as Global Fund for Women or Open Police Projects. I've never heard of them because I haven't paid much attention to it, but it does seem like a miscommunication over the word, social justice, because, when people think social justice, they think of Christy Winters, Kevin Logan, and what's it? I mean, I guess people also would think of Christiosity, I suppose. But I mean, social justice is actually a lot more complicated than that. I mean, look, Wikipedia, it goes into social justice in detail. And I mean, if you look at Wikipedia, Wikipedia doesn't define, social justice as a, purple-haired girl screeching over the internet and won't allow you to speak. Social justice is actually a it's actually a philosophy, or it really is an ideology or whatever. concepts about fair and just relations between individuals and society that is measured by the explicit and tacit terms of the distribution of wealth opportunities for personal activity. And Richard Carrier is not wrong. I mean, I am a bit familiar with the other social justice that he's talking about. Social justice workers work in the world, social justice warriors rant on the web, social justice workers focus on poverty, social justice warriors focus on privilege, social justice workers treat everybody with respect, social justice warriors reject civility. So yes, I am mildly familiar with the other social justice that Richard Carrier is talking about. And I was reading from How to Make a Social Justice Warrior from I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But I've always known that the anti-SJW community knows very little about social justice because they keep defining social justice as purple-haired teenage girl that yells and screams a lot. So you could tell that the anti-SJW community never ever actually Googled the term social justice to learn more about what they are against. Now, I would say that Richard Carrier does come off as naive in his own end. He does seem to like live in a bubble. He doesn't know that social justice warriors speak out against hate speech. At least the online ones do. If he doesn't spend a lot of time online, then he's probably unfamiliar with. I guess it looks like he does have a life outside of the internet. You know, but he doesn't seem to be aware of the SJWs that speak out against hate speech. He acts naive of the term hate speech. So, I mean, he probably is just living in a bubble, but I am familiar of what Sargon is talking about, where you have these intersectional feminists who are very extreme, who ask for more censorship. They would be acting Jack, and they'll be acting Twitter supports, and they will be asking for more and more censorship to get rid of more people from the platform. So I would hold Richard Carrier's naivety against him. However, Sargon should have read Richard Carrier's work before, going onto stage with him. You don't just go onto stage with somebody without reading their work. Like Richard Carrier, he came prepared. He seems to already know what he's going to deal with. He came prepared to talk to Sargon. Sargon was not prepared to talk to Carrier. Sargon wanted to use his big boy brains. He wanted to do some 3D underwater backgammon and, just basically depend on his opponents being a soy boy beta male that screeches at the audience. You could tell because in 18 minutes into it, as well as 47 minutes into it, Sargon was like, you can come running off the stage now. So 2 times, Sargon told Richard Carrier to go running off the stage. And Carrier's like, well, I'm not going to do that. So to me, like, this proves to me, in my mind, that this isn't an accident. This isn't an accident. Sargon heavily depends on his opponents being a soy boy beta male, that's going to just get triggered and go running up the stage and be like, Sargon's a mean bully and I don't want to touch you anymore. Sargon heavily depends on that because it works in his favor. That's Saul Alinsky tactics, when really there is a problem with using tactics, and that is some people are going to be able to see right through it. Like Mr. Medicare. Mr. Medicare, harmful opinions, they can see right through his tactics. When you use the tactics, people can see right through it. So, at least Sargon makes it really clear that he depends on his opponents running off the stage. He was actually yelling and screaming at at Carrier, and he was like pointing, "Run off the stage!" It is really this Freudian slip that lets everybody know that Sargon heavily depends on his opponents running off the stage. One of the things that I found interesting is like how many applause that, Richard Carrier was getting, and how like, okay, like 30 minutes into it, the audience actually turned on Sargon when he says, if I can't do it with 850 subs, then you can't do it with 5K subs. I mean, Sargon, it's like Mr. Medicare is so right about him. Like his ego is so big. I mean, it's like this guy is such a narcissist. I mean, he just came here. I mean, just depending on these Saul Alinsky rules for radical taxes, and it backfires against them. 1 hour, 20 minutes into it, like 30 something seconds, Sargon actually did say that racism was unironically good. And I just started laughing like a lunatic, because I mean, that was very funny. Like, and like, rancid feminists started making memes on it. Racism was a bad thing for black people. Racism was bad, but the welfare states is worse. The welfare states cause more problems for black people than racism. Racism was unironically good for black communities, stated by Sargon. Yes, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 39 seconds into it, Sargon did state that. And it's like, this guy comes across as a maniac. Like, oh my God, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Does he even know how crazy he sounds? And not only that, but that's not the only crazy thing he stated. Like 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 22 seconds into it, like Sargon was basically advocating for like murdering, people into social justice. Like this is where he says, Catholics just kill people. That's what we do to the SJWs. It's like, Sargon, do you just realize that you advocated for murder? Sargon, he also, yeah, because this was when Sargon said to Carrier, yes, there was a crusade against the Catholic Church. Sargon wants to murder people. Wow. Okay, and okay, like there's this other one where he says that he doesn't, want intersectional feminists or Nazis to have jobs. Something, that, anti-feminists are currently complaining about. Anti-feminists are currently complaining about, oh my goodness, I would probably lose my job because of my opinions. And Sargon is actually advocating for intersectional feminists and neo-Nazis to lose their job. Rancid feminists has no idea just how, accurate this is, because if the neo-Nazis and, the intersectional feminists are going to risk losing their jobs because of the skeptic community, then they're going to be more inclined to work together and just target the skeptics. I mean, this has backfire written all over it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with, Richard Spencer or JF having a job because I have no problem with Richard Spencer and JF eating. People need to eat to survive. So it's kind of a lot like Sargon comes up with these draconian, responses because if people are starving, I mean, we have seen nothing yet because people are at their all-time worst when they are starving. Now, I would acknowledge that Sargon did apologize to Richard Carrier twice. And I mean, let's not forget he did gaslight and strawman Richard Carrier a lot during this shit show. So Sargon did owe Carrier an apology for all of that gaslighting he did, and basically lying about him. However, he keeps doing shit like this. I mean, he did this. I mean, isn't this like his third apology? Because I know that he made an apology video after he got through talking with Christy Winters. Then he made like an apology video after the Richard Spencer debates. The big debates with Richard Spencer, Millennial Woes, what's it, Charles Warwick, Stick Sextonhammer. Um, Carl Benjamin apologized for that, and now he's apologizing again. He keeps apologizing over and over and over again. When really, I just think that it's this. I don't know, this 3D underwater backgammon backfiring on him. Like he's using these Saul Alinsky tactics. So go. Yes, I'm gonna go in and I know this is true. I know that he's being tactical because like I said earlier, and I'll repeat this, 18 minutes into it, as well as 47 minutes into it, Sargon said, "You can go running off the stage now." He said it twice. It's a Freudian slip. He is making it clear that he depends on his opponents running off the stage. And it's something that everybody knows at this point. Pretty much every single SJW knows it, but pretty much various people in the alt-rights knows it. Like even like Millennial Wolves and Richard Spencer, JF, even like people in the far rights, even they know this about Sargon. Sargon's tactics is very predictable at this point and it's easy to see through. And if you know your opponents, you can easily just, counter, do a counterbalance or whatever. You could really just be like, oh, Sargon is going to do this, therefore I am going to do that. Richard Carrier came in prepared, Sargon came in unprepared. He should have done his research instead of relying on Saul Alinsky. Now, one last thing that was in my notes that I overlooked was that Sargon and Richard Carrier both agreed that social justice extremists are bad. And I mean, this has been going on like for like 46 minutes. It's 46 minutes, probably even an hour of Sargon and Richard Carrier agreeing that SJW extremists are back. So the weird thing is that, Sargon keeps pressing the issue that they both agree with. Sargon's like, the SJWs are bad. And Richard Carrier's like, to me, yeah, I agree. The extremists are bad. It's kind of like they keep going around in circles over and over and over again. So it's kind of like he would have been better off pretty much attacking his moderate version of social justice, But again, Sargon didn't really allow Richard Carrier to get a word in edgewise. Who knows, like maybe if he allowed Richard Carrier to do more of the talking, he probably could have turned the tide. Like maybe if he gave Richard Carrier a bit greater chance to talk, maybe Richard Carrier would have, fell flat on his face. But because Richard Carrier couldn't really get a word in edgewise, I hardly know what his views are. I mean, I'm not really all that familiar with Richard Carrier. I don't really read his work or whatnot, but I am familiar that there is a different type of social justice. But I mean, Sargon could have went after this moderate kind. But I mean, because he keeps honing in on the extremists like Christy Winters, you know, this conversation went nowhere because Sargon insists on keep dragging it, in circles. I mean, it is at least 46 minutes of, Sargon going, social justice is bad, and Richard Carrier going, I agree, the extremists are bad. We should work together to stop the extremists. I mean, that was just pathetic, and it turned into a shit show, and it could have been a lot more productive than it was. Anyway, I am Marina Mikhailis. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you disagree with me, why do you disagree with me? Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. But, I do know I have some Sargon fans, in the audience, but I'm not going to lie to anybody. So if I lose subscribers, or if I get downvotes, that's not something I really give a shit about. I don't really make YouTube videos for other people. I make YouTube videos for myself. So, I mean, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I'm making a new video every week. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.